People should be horrified right now. Black people, women, people of color, the LGBTQ community should all have their hair blazing on fire at this administration. Nothing should be able to keep them from the polls. But do they have the kind of messaging that tell them the kind of crazy this man is saying and doing? No.
You didn't vote for this. You were voting for a president who was going to keep you out of foreign wars. You were voting for a president who was going to focus, or claim that he was going to focus, on the domestic economy, that he was going to get your gas prices down, that he was going to get you back to work. And he doesn't spend any time on any of those things. Why would you continue to support that party? They're lying to your face, and they're not even hiding it. Michael says hi.
Hello, Michael.
He's making broccoli.
Yeah.
Can you explain for anyone outside of Virginia what's going on with redistricting right now in Virginia?
Sure. So here's what's happening in Virginia. As you know, Donald Trump, President Trump, said to states out loud, to Texas, to Ohio, to North Carolina, which had already done it, to redraw the lines so that he could get more seats in Congress. They're so worried about what's going to happen with the congressional races that even though we're not at a 10-year point when you have an opportunity to redraw the lines based on the census, they are redrawing them early in Texas. They're asking Florida to do it. They've done it in Missouri so that they can get additional seats. And typically, Democrats would just say, oh, geez, that's not the rules. We don't believe in gerrymandering, blah, blah, blah. And we would do nothing. And we would just simply allow them to redraw their lines and draw out people, which is how Jasmine Crockett ended up running for Senate. Because when they redrew the lines in Texas, they drew her out so that she would no longer be able to win. And so California, with Prop 50, was the first one to say, you know what? We are not going to take this sitting down. And so they put the vote to the people. And of course, Prop 50 passed. The difference is in Texas, in North Carolina, in Missouri, in these other places that they've done it, they've not asked the people. They've just done it. And so Virginia, because we have control of the legislature in the House, in the Senate, and the governor, we have the ability to do the same thing. The only difference is we're putting the vote to the people. And after 2030, we will go back to our normal redistricting, which is hopefully what we've all wanted, which is free of gerrymandering. But we're not going to sit back and just let them redraw the lines across the country to give them an unfair advantage for Congress. And so we are redrawing our lines, and it will be more favorable to Democrats, which will give us a level playing field when voting time comes November 3rd. And the fight is getting ugly because the Republicans they are now just outright lying. Just lying. They are appropriating, they're using civil rights moments to say, oh, we're taking votes away from Black people, and they're putting words in Governor Spanberger's mouth and President Obama's mouth to say that they're saying no. They're just using all kinds of things to confuse people so that they can win this vote. And we're working very, very hard to let people know that we should be voting yes, that we should redraw these lines, that we should give not just Virginia. This is for the country, because if the country doesn't win the Congress, we have no chance of restraining this madman and his administration.
It's fairly clear that the Republicans are just outright cheating. They know that come the November midterms, unless they successfully cheat, they're going to get obliterated. And nobody is more desperate about this situation than, of course, the President of the United States, because of what may come to his door should the Democrats take back the House, which I think is a done deal. I was not one to say that the Democrats had a chance at winning back the majority in the Senate. I still am standing behind the Democrats are not going to win the majority in the Senate, but there are plenty of people out there who know more than I do who are starting to buy into the possibility that Maine, Susan Collins may lose her race. Texas, James Tallarico may win there. Alaska, there's a number of other places where if the Democrats do exceedingly well as is predicted, then the Senate and the House both go back to Democrat control. And isn't that going to be quite a horrible scenario for Donald J. Trump?
Yes, it is. North Carolina is also
North
hopeful because
Carolina, Tom Tillis is leaving.
well, he's leaving and Cooper coming in, and he hasn't lost a statewide race. I do believe that so much is happening right now. Remember that MAGA is not the majority. What has really given them the majority is independents and MAGA light people or Republicans who vote with Republicans, even though they may not agree. And I do believe that if we can figure out how to harness that power to really show people how horrible this administration is. The other thing that's really interesting to me that I've been thinking about is that there is a message here for MAGA lights and Republicans. And that message is what he's shown very clearly is that he doesn't care about them either. Because if they come to understand the SAVE Act, it is so many of his voters. And we're not talking about the most affluent. We're talking about what they consider the everyday Americans who may live in rural communities, who don't travel a lot, who don't have passports, who live in rural communities who, based on how old they are, they don't have ready access to their birth certificates. They don't have ready access to marriage certificates.
The thing that's important about the SAVE Act that a lot of people need to understand is it's what the Republicans are saying and what Trump is saying. Well, number one, he wants to get rid of voting by mail. He votes by mail. Let's put that aside for a moment. Number two, they're saying ID. You should have ID. You should have ID. And that's all they're saying. But what they're not talking about is that you're going to have to show up with proof of citizenship. Now, there are plenty of states already that require ID when you show up to vote. Not all of them. But in many cases, in many states, you can show up with your driver's license or a hunting license or a passport. And that's fine. But now you're going to actually have to prove that you are a citizen of the United States. That's going to affect women whose last names are different if they're married. It's going to possibly affect naturalized citizens who at one point were not citizens of the United States but have since been naturalized. And then also in the current form, I believe, it turns over voter rolls to the federal government. The states are in control of their own elections, and the federal government is saying, give us all of your voter information. The purpose for that is to knock as many people off as possible. And if you look at every special election that is happening all across the country right now, it is the same thing over and over again. Republicans are getting clobbered. Trump's district in Florida, where Mar-a-Lago is, just went to a Democrat. And I think Trump won by like 13 points there. And the Democrat, I think, ended up winning by 2 or 3. So it's going to be a bloodbath unless he gets this SAVE Act passed, which right now it feels like it's not going to happen.
Yeah, and you've made a couple of really good points that I think people miss. And that is, if they get those voter rolls, they will drop off so many people that you'll be required to re-register. And when you re-register, you'll have to prove who you are. And that means you have to get those documents that you've just been talking about, your birth certificate, your marriage license, all of those things in order to be able to vote. It is so much bigger. What's really interesting is that most people really do show an ID when they vote. There is a picture ID of some sort. My husband works at the polls. He was the chief. Hardly anybody comes in without a picture ID of some sort.
How many people who aren't citizens in the United States and know they aren't citizens in the United States are rushing to go and vote? Wouldn't that be the last thing you'd want to do?
It usually is by some kind of accident, and it's like 0.000 something. And it's not only that. The other thing that it does is people who work at the polls, there is legislation in there that would make it really, really difficult for people to want to, because anyone could say, well, you did this, or you allowed this person to vote, or this person didn't have the right ID and you let them vote, and they can bring charges against you. And so the bill is just filled with nonsense, and that a president would want to eliminate so many people from voting should tell us everything we need to know.
And the fact that they are calling it the Save America Act. Who would vote against something called the Save America Act? I mean, my God, Aren't we all patriots? Don't we all want to save America? Do you feel like America is being saved under this administration? Because I sure as hell don't. I don't feel like he is doing a damn thing. Look at the gas prices. Look at the grocery prices. How many people? We're going to talk about momentarily, the Americans who have been killed in this war, but there's been like 3,000 people whose lives have been lost, and that includes 100 plus little girls under the age of like 14 that nobody in this administration is talking about, of course. And the president was talking about Sharpie pens yesterday in a cabinet meeting.
See this pen right here? This pen is an interesting example. It's the same thing. So this pen is very inexpensive, but it writes well. I like it. And they were $1,000 a piece. Beautiful pen, ballpoint. 1,000. It was gold, silver, gorgeous. He said, well, I can make it nicer. I said, what can you do? He said, I'll paint it black. I said, that's nice. And I can even paint the White House on it, sir, if you like, in gold. Almost real gold, not bad.
When we have a Strait of Hormuz that is closed, when we have people dying in Iran for a war that nobody seems to understand why we're even there, we are on the verge of something that may be bigger and more horrible than anything we're experiencing right now, which is scary enough. Gas prices going up, grocery prices going up, job creation has basically just completely ground to a halt under this administration.
Here's something that I wanted to come back to, because we talked about this in one of our sessions.
But let me go pee real fast. Hang on. I didn't mean to hijack the conversation, by the way. Oh, it smells like broccoli in this house. Okay. Go.
Now, here we are again in this moment right now. And in my view, the Democrats, who I love, are missing another important opportunity to be messaging in different kinds of ways and talking to very specific groups of people. There are ways for us to get to our people. You might have to pay for it, but there are ways to do it. And we are not doing it. People should be horrified right now. Black people, women, people of color, the LGBTQ community should all have their hair blazing on fire at this administration. Nothing should be able to keep them from the polls. But do they have the kind of messaging that tell them the kind of crazy shit this man is saying and doing? No. They want us to do it the best we can through our networks. We need their help to do that. It is a psychological war that we're in right now for the hearts and souls of America. That is really where we are. If we want to win the hearts and souls and minds of America, we have to understand that this is all psychological right now, and that how people feel, how they feel about who's winning, how they feel about what the message is, how they feel about the other team matters. And we have not demonstrated in any way that we are trying to get the hearts and minds of our people. We're just asking grassroots people to do it. And there is a way that our big people here, our DNC and DCC and the DSC, blah, 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 whoever they are, there is a way for them to be part of that too.
We've discussed before delivering the message to people who have voted Republican repeatedly. You didn't vote for this. What's going on right now? You were voting for a president who was going to keep you out of foreign wars. You were voting for a president who was going to focus, or claim that he was going to focus on the domestic economy, that he was going to get your gas prices down, that he was going to get you back to work. And he doesn't spend any time on any of those things. Why would you continue to support that party? They're lying to your face, and they're not even hiding it. They're not even hiding it. You want to give them your vote again? Look, if you want to not vote Republican and just stay home, do that.
Do us a favor.
Do that.
Do us a favor and stay
Know
home.
that you understand that this administration promised you everything and is delivering none of it. Deportations, the board, okay, you like seeing that. You like seeing people who are less fortunate than you being banished from this country. But how does that affect what's in your checking account? And you think it's bad now. Just wait until MAGA wins another 4 years. It's going to be over. It's going to be over.
And I
It's better for you.
I expect the MAGA cult to be good with that. But what I don't expect is conservatives and anybody else.
True conservatives. True conservatives.
Right.
My dad was a true conservative.
That's
And at
right.
the
I
end of
don't
his life,
expect
he stopped referring to himself as a Republican. He said, no,
yeah,
I'm a conservative.
that's
Because
exactly
he
right.
had values that actually mattered to him that he thought that the Republican Party supported and no longer does.
That's right. So MAGA, I get it. You're good with the cruelty. You're good with treating people badly. You're good with the racism. You're good with women not having any rights. You're good with women not being able to vote. You're good with all of that. But I don't expect conservatives. I don't expect people who have believed in Republican policies for whatever may disagree with me, but you're a Republican, and I'm okay with that. I believe those people should stay home or vote Democratic, but just stay home. But the MAGA people, we just have to stop wasting our time. They will come out of the cult at some time or another, but we cannot spend our time on that right now. We're too busy making sure that we have a coalition who believes in equality and freedom and humanity.